I'm going to work through the 2021 question 31 Ebnf question and go through slowly and show all of my working and all of my thinking so that you can replicate it for the example. Okay, so we have been given a bunch of multi-way selections in a specific programming language that we don't know what it is. And so we have to come up with the rules that govern these examples of the select statement. Let's have a look down here. It says, using Ebnf, so we know how to do that, provide a definition, not for anything, just for the multi-way selection statement. And we may assume condition exists, and condition, let me change that color. So condition looks like this: x is greater than 10 or y is equal to 1 or anything that's that kind of shape. So let's go find those. X is greater than 10, x is less than 0, x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. All of these are examples of conditions. And statement, let's go with a third color, statement here, such as print 0 or sub 4 have already been defined elsewhere. So that would be here and here, here. Just highlighting all of the examples that could possibly be under that definition of statement. And so we start to see a bit of a pattern emerge, and there are some other things that we have to notice, that there are some things that are repeated every time this select statement is written. So let's have a look at those. Repeated, this is always going to exist. And then there are a couple of things that we have to handle separately. Now, we're going to do some remembering. So remembering from Ebnf that I've got the copy from the course specifications document over here. So we can remember that we need to use the equal sign, that if we have a choice between alternatives, we can use the pipe symbol. A terminal symbol means that it is just literally select, the string, print, if. These are things that don't need to be defined elsewhere. And this is used to specify a term that will be defined elsewhere. And then we have brackets, an optional part of the definition. So this is optional. And this is 0 or many. So I think of this as 0 to 1 times repetition. And this is 0 to infinity times repetition. And the brackets are grouping. This is to avoid, so no ambiguity. That's the only reason we use the brackets. Okay, so now that we've revised what the rules are and we've highlighted the important parts of the question, we're going to start to build it. And I'll do this in a couple of stages. So the first stage is to put in everything that absolutely must be in the definition. And so we're going to have terminals in there. So we're going to write select case. Try and keep your case the same as their case because it could be just a little bit wrong if you get it around the wrong way. And in real Ebnf, it is very specific. If you think of in Python, if you typed while with capitals, it wouldn't work, and while without capitals does work. So it's very specific. And then we need an end select down the bottom somewhere. I'm going to do this in different rows to kind of indicate the carriage returns that are in existence, but you don't have to do that. Carriage returns can be ignored. Okay, so now have a look at my 3 cases. All of them have something between the select and the end select. all of them have something. We've got something here, we've got multiple things here, we've got multiple things here. So we need to have at least one of these lines of code in between each of the select cases. But we could have more than one. So let's go with just defining one of them. So we have some literal text here. We need to use those. So let's do the simplest form. The simplest form is this one here. So that means we have yellow, so condition, and then some white space, and then a colon. Make sure that that looks like a colon, and then statement, and that's it. And that works. You can see that this matches this pattern. But this one here is a little more complex. See this bit here? That's additional. So that means that it's possible to be optional. It could just be that we can have 2 lines. But then we have a look down here, and there's 2 of them. So we start thinking one to many. Now, in order to have one to many, this here, if we look over here, is 0 to many. So if we just put brackets around, curly brackets around that, we'd be in trouble, because that would mean that we could have 0 statements there. That's not possible. So let's undo that. And we're going to put another optional statement at the end. So curly brackets, optional, 0 to many times repeat, and we must have a semicolon here. Must have a semicolon, and then another statement. And then the curly brackets can close. So that means that I can have 0 of them, which would look like this. Oops, this one. And I can have 2 of them, which would look like this one. So 0 repetitions, 2 in total, 1 repetition of this guy is 2. And then I can also have 3 down here, and I could have many. Okay. So we have ticked off this line here. We can consider that ticked. But now we look at the other 2, and we've got a couple of things that are different. The first thing I think we're going to deal with is this one here, which is the otherwise statement. So otherwise is clearly optional. We can have it or we cannot have it. So let's write it inside an optional grouping, which is 0 or 1. That's this one here, 0 or 1. So I'm going to put the square brackets around it. I might just drop that down a line because I know what's coming next. Okay, optional, and I type otherwise. I'm writing, of course, not typing. And then a colon, that's literal. And then, look at this, I could have many statements separated with semicolons, or I can have none at all. So none at all means that I can make this optional. Okay, and then I want to have a statement and then some number of statements after it. So statement, and then this looks exactly the same as that condition thing. So curly bracket, semicolon, some number of statements. Close that curly bracket. Now we close the optional thing after the otherwise, and then finally we close the otherwise itself. So the otherwise is optional. Within the otherwise, our statement is optional. And if you have a statement, you can have many statements. That's what this means here. So now we have ticked off the otherwise. So I'm just going to tick that. But we've got a problem because we can have 3 of them here or 2 of them here. So we need to have a look at that first one again. So currently, this only allows one condition. And we want to have the possibility of many conditions. So we need to rewrite it. So 0 to many repetitions, so curly braces, and then condition here. And this is exactly the same as the previous line, statement. And then another curly brace, semicolon, statement, curly brace, end curly brace. So let's just do the double check and check that all of our triangle brackets are open and closed, all of our curly brackets are open and closed, 1, 2, 1, 2, and all of our square brackets are open and closed, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is done. And as I said, you don't have to lay it out this way, but they gave you multiple lines, so I would.